Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we are going to have a look at another Fedora distro. This is Nobara Linux. So last week we looked at, or was it 2 weeks ago? I forget. Anyway, recently we looked at Ultramarine, which was a Fedora distro which enabled RPM Fusion and did a few of the extra steps that some people might want added to make your Fedora ready to install, so you can install it and use it right out of the box without doing the extra steps of codecs and RPM Fusion and things like that. And the biggest downside of it is we weren't able to actually find what types of changes were done in the system to accommodate having the new distro. Is this just Fedora with repositories added, which anybody can do in 10 minutes, or is there something else to this distro? And so some people were like, hey, that's really good, saves a few steps. And some people were like, I don't really know. Well, there's another distro much like it, and this is a Nobara. And Nobara is likewise based on the Fedora project. Unlike Ultramarine, though, they actually give us a lot more details about what is installed. Now, that doesn't mean that this is instantly better. There are certainly some downsides I see to this distro. So we'll go ahead and have a look at this. Now, they do say they're not just a spin, just a different desktop environment. What they are is they are a distribution based on this with some modifications. Primarily, the two modifications, or I guess your primary modification is if you are going to be doing a lot of video gaming or even game streaming or things like that, this one might be the better distribution as it's better set up for some of those things as to a basic Fedora based on some of the changes that they are doing. In my case, since I'm not much of a gamer, I'm not sure I would use Nobara, especially since it does have that one thing I really disagree with installing on your Linux system unless you absolutely intend to use it, and that is Wine. Wine is already set up, installed, and enabled, meaning that, yes, theoretically, although possible, theoretically, Windows viruses could run on the system if one were not careful. But let's go ahead and have a look at what this has a look at. Now, they say the site is a work in progress. I did find that the work in progress site at least had the information we were looking for on the other distro. So that is good, and let that be a good lesson to any of your distro creators out there. When you have a website, it's very useful to tell us what is the thing. Don't just tell me you have some customized packages. I don't know what that means. Are you cramming proprietary garbage in there, or what's going on? Likely not. But this one, they actually give us a comprehensive list of your changes. Kernels are patched with cherry-picked Zen patches. Hello, I can talk today. Zen packages allow some more future compatibility. Also, TKG kernel on Arch. So this is going to give some extra support. Patch with Open RGB. Kernel patch to enable AMD GPU for pre-Polaris cards instead of Radeon, and it's patched with Steam Deck support. So if you're a person using Steam Deck and want to have some degree of compatibility, this one actually works. We have some Microsoft Surface support, so if you want to get Windows off of that Surface you have laying around, this one would be a good thing. There's also some ASUS Linux patches for better ASUS Linux compatibility. And then there's a few things. There's some workarounds for NVIDIA, and we have Lenovo Legion Linux support. So really, they're really targeting specific systems that a few people have had some issues with to say we are doing extra steps to completely make sure that these systems are compatible. So if you've had problems running Linux and you're not opposed to a Fedora build, and you've had some Lenovo or some Asus or some Surface computers you've been having issues with, you might give this one a try, as they have actually done some extra things. I'll let you read the rest of it yourself down here, but there is a lot of extra stuff pre-installed out of the box. And it is using the one I have downloaded anyway. Does have it does use GNOME, but it is modified. It doesn't look like GNOME. I thought it was actually KDE initially, but it turns out it's GNOME. So here's some NVIDIA GPU detection and auto installation for video codecs. Post installation codec installer asks the user if they'd like to enable them. We have Blender support, allows H.264 render support, and is available with AMD GPU. Also, if you're looking at running DaVinci Resolve, then they have some configuration changes they can do to work with DaVinci Resolve on installs. So if you are looking at that, you might look at this as a distribution to run DaVinci Resolve on, which traditionally is a little bit more difficult. With browser plugins for OBS Studio, and let's see. Here's Wine included in installation. This to me is a danger zone. I do not like to see Wine installed on a distribution unless the distribution explicitly needs to use it. So in this case, of course, they're trying to make your system as best compatible for a gamer. And the problem is, if you're not a gamer, if you're someone like me and you're not really inclined to need to run Wine, having Wine installed on your system when you're not intending to use it opens up a vulnerability in your security. So this is really good if you're that target market. It is really bad if you're not. But they do have it working. They actually also have Proton and Lutris all set up as well. So there is a lot of extra things. For those looking at security, they've removed SE Linux. They're putting in AppArmor instead because it's more user-friendly. RPM Fusion's included by default. Steam is included in the installation. There's your Lutris. They're using OnlyOffice instead of LibreOffice. And we have Cups and VaporSynth updated to the latest version. So there are a lot of different things that we have, and then they explain a lot of the different tools about RPM Fusion and things like that. So overall, Nobara does a really good job of showing us all of the different things we need. So here we have, there's a link to Etcher. Very good. I like that they put the direct link here because Etcher is one of those programs that was targeted in malvertising campaigns where people will out SEO the original site, pay with Google Ads, and put a malicious copy of Etcher for download. And so having a link directly to the site is way more secure than searching it up on the internet and trying to install Etcher. So I like that. Here's the official Nobara 38. Just released about a week ago. There's a GNOME version. There's a KDE version. And here is, if you specifically are using NVIDIA support, you want to grab the NVIDIA one. They have a Steam Deck release, and then there are some older ones out there as well. So let's go ahead and boot this guy up and have a look at what it looks like. We are using virtual machine as our system, and inside of the virtual machine, then I've given this 6 gigs of RAM, access to, I think, 4 processing cores, and so we'll get a chance to see what this guy looks like. So here is our login screen, and you can see we have our power mode. We have our balanced or power saver. We have wired, dark style. I don't have Bluetooth on this, so otherwise I'd see Bluetooth up there. So here is our login here. I'll enter my super secret password. And then you can see we have GNOME, GNOME Classic on org, and GNOME on X. So those are your various options there. We'll go ahead and log into the system. And what we have over here is when you first boot this guy up, you will see that it does not look like GNOME out of the box. I actually thought it was something else until I was looking at the settings. Oh, that's neat. All right, so now the first thing it does is it detects this is a Nobara installation. Before moving on, it is required you perform a system update. So I wanted to save this step for you guys just to see this pop-up occurs before you even walk through any of the welcome steps. So I'm going to go ahead and let this run. And then we'll get a chance together to see what this looks like. And we can look at what is in the first steps here in a moment. I want to get this guy going, make sure it doesn't ask me any questions. And then we'll go ahead and walk through this welcome screen. So it's forced me to download almost 1 gigabyte of data on start. That's okay. We'll go ahead and let it do its thing. We'll keep that in the background there, and we'll walk through our first steps. So here we have the update your system, and then here we can install their patented media codecs. No, this isn't them patenting it. These are things like MP3 and things like that that are generally not included in some Linux distributions based on what you're doing. I hit the launch, but since we're updating the system, I don't want to interfere with that right now. If you are running NVIDIA, you can install proprietary drivers if you want to. There's more apps in the Software Center. And we also have web apps. So we do have a web app application here. So if you want to install any of those web apps, you can go ahead and do that. And let's have a brief look at the Software Center while we're over here. And so our Software Center is your basic GNOME store. Looking at the software repositories, this is going to tell us what all is enabled out of the box. So I'm guessing the software repository says locked because we're updating the system. That's the only explanation. I've actually let it sit here for 3 minutes and it's not changing. So we'll come back to that in a moment, see what happens there. Let's go ahead and search for some of my favorite applications. So like Audacity, for example. Let's see if this will work at all. This is why I really don't like where GNOME is moving. I'm seeing more and more of these searching animations. It's like things are taking for absolute ever to search anything up in any of these applications anymore. And I'm not seeing that on every distribution. I'm really seeing that just on GNOME. So if I wanted to go ahead and let's just, all right, well, you'll have to just look at create. And it's all just going to sit here. All right, I think it's useless to look at the software store while it's still downloading updates. So it's wanting to download a gig of stuff. It's actually almost done downloading, so we'll go ahead and let this go. I really think that forcing me to push a system update on first install is actually a waste, and for my opinion, extraordinarily frustrating. Because I want to install it and see what the thing can do. I want to poke around. I don't want the thing to behave like Windows and say, hey, you, we're have to force you to do an update before you do anything, okay? Because this is my system, not your system. Ha ha ha. So it's going to get a downside for me on that one because for me it's forcing me to do something I may not want to do, and that's kind of problematic. All right, so here's some recommended actions: installing Blender, installing Kdenlive, installing OBS, installing Discord. And then we have some other optional steps. So if you're running AMD, you might want to install proprietary AMD drivers, although for AMD, you generally don't have to do that. Oh, Flatpak has been detected. Would you like to update all Flatpaks on your system? Sure, why not? Okay. So it is behaving a little bit more like Windows. It's just giving me random notifications and pop-ups. All the reasons I don't use Windows. So call me old-fashioned, call it old. I'm sorry, I like Linux Mint. But anyway, if you are using DaVinci Resolve, these are your fix-ups for that. Proton GE, compatibility tool for Steam Play on based on Wine and additional components. Done by the glorious Eggroll. All right, I am so out of the gaming. I have no earthly idea what that means. Oh, update your system. Update complete is recommended. Do you reboot? Do you want to reboot? Nope. We're in the middle of something right now, system. At least it wasn't like Windows. We are forcing you to reboot, you pleb. All right, let's go back to the first steps. Let's see if the Software Center will actually load anything at this point in time. Let's check our software repositories. Hey, there we are. All right, so FlatHub is installed and set up with the official FlatHub out of the box. We have Fedora 38, and here's your updates. And then we have Nobara snapshots. Here is a Nobara app stream. Here's your multilib. Here's RPM Fusion. We have our non-free, we have our free, and then we have firmware update services as well. So those are our repositories. Let's go ahead and search up Audacity. So here is Audacity, and we have the options of the Flatpak. We have Nobara Linux, an unknown source, and we have RPM Fusion. Curious, what is Nobara Linux giving us? This says it's safe, reviewed by your distribution, auditable code. It's version 3.1.3. This is the version that will have some spyware in it, so it's curious if they've taken that out. Here is the Flatpak version. They're telling us it's unsafe. See how the GNOME software store is starting to move in the direction of elementary OS. The one thing, it's like, okay, these applications have been well known. But this is a danger of everyone trying to switch to the Flatpaks and the Snap systems, is the code has not been audited by the people. It is, it has only been, audited by the team. In the case of Snap, they don't really audit them. In the case of Flatpak, I think it's a little bit better. And here's the RPM Fusion version. This is potentially unsafe, provided by a third party. Okay. So this is 3.3.3. And what was the Flatpak version? 3.3.3. So the Nobara one, this is the one marked as safe, and 3.1.3. So you have a few different options for software to install. So that's pretty nice. Let's go ahead and look at our other functions here. You can choose your login manager. The one we started with is GDM. If you want to install SDDM, the Simple Display Manager from KDE, or LightDM is the one that is used in like Ubuntu and Linux Mint. So you can go ahead and choose which login manager you want. That's good. Here's your launching new themes and icons if you want to get something different. So this is just taking us to pling.com. That could be a little bit more difficult because, I've never actually seen this. Is it giving us something we can quickly install, or is it just going to give us download files? I have no idea. Okay, here's install. All right, let's see if we can install this. Let's see what happens. So prepare to download. All right, installing things with the OM. Let's see. Is it done? Did it do something? I don't even know. So that is a little bit on the downside for me, and a little leery on that one. Here's your layout. So very similar to what you'll find inside of, for example, Zorin OS. We have this switcher. So we're using this. Well, it says we're using the GNOME one, but it definitely looks like we're using more of the traditional layout. Oh, there it is. Okay, and then I can choose my accent colors from there. All right, so there's your more traditional. This is not super user-friendly. It's really, the system really feels like it's lagging out on me. It's like I'm not getting response while it's trying to update itself. And so there you go. There's like duplicating Windows 11. Why on God's green earth, but okay. Here is your GNOME. This is the one it said it started on, and it looks like we got a system crash. There we are. So how wonderful. Fatal X-guess window error. This may just mean the Windows system was shut down. It looks to me like the thing killed itself. All right, let's go ahead and reboot our virtual machine. Power off the machine. We'll boot this guy back up. Sounds great. See, this is how you get good stuff on our channel, because we're not going through and doing massive amounts of edits to make everything look as polished as it could possibly be out of the box. I want to give you guys an accurate representation of what we're actually seeing and actually doing. So in this case, the theme switcher seems to throw a few errors. It seems to lag out a little bit. And hey, the system's like, hey, you were going to force you to update. And maybe that was just the subtle Windows coming out and things saying, hey, you will indeed update. There you have it. All right, let's go back to our look and feel. Let's see if we can actually change our styles this time. So codecs are not installed. Oh, now we're getting pop-up. This is just like Windows. Hey, we switched to the Windows looking theme, and now we're getting random pop-ups about installing crap we didn't want to install. Sure, let's go ahead and install codecs. Oh, okay. I hope this isn't malware. All right, this distribution is actually a little annoying. I gotta say, I'm having fun with it. But oh, look at that, a GPG failed. It did tell me that. I don't know. Did that work or not? I haven't a clue. All right, here's your GNOME layout there. Okay, so we have some windows at the bottom. We have our taskbar at the top. We have a Unity look. There you go. For those that like Unity. And traditional is definitely close to the one we had when we started. So I'm not sure why the system was sitting back and saying that we were on GNOME to start, but anyway. So, although I am seeing something down here at the bottom though as well. So, okay, let's go ahead and close the layouts. I did click the button to close the layouts. All right. So here's your theming. Extensions have moved. Great. We're getting amazing new Windows. This is the Windows clone. We're actually getting like random pop-ups and crap. Extensions management has moved. Okay, great. Whatever. So basically this is just loading your GNOME tweaks. Startup applications. Here's your top bar. Of course, you'll kind of see that there seems to be a bug in the system. We're getting a little display panel underneath everything else. If you can see that in the bottom corner under our windows there. So there's that. Let's go back to that layout. Let's see if we can get that fixed. Yeah, we were kind of on this one. Well, it's the ticker box was there, but the layout was definitely more like this. But it's like it's not unloading that one application that was giving us the task list at the bottom of the screen. So, okay, we're just going to go ahead and run with that for now. Here's extensions to the desktop. That might load up Firefox. Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay, just does some extensions. Okay, so there's a lot of extensions pre-installed that we might want to use. Updating your system, join the community, and contribute. All right, so there we have it. Let's go ahead and poke around here a little bit more. What we have, here's your applications installed out of the box. So we have maps, we have an NVIDIA wizard. This is good if you're running NVIDIA. It's really bad if you're like, I'm not running NVIDIA and I don't build computers with NVIDIA, so I don't care. So that's kind of extra stuff in my menu that would drive me crazy later. You can see here's your wine tricks. Once again, I do not agree with installing wine on a system without absolutely needing it first. So we do have LibreOffice Math installed on here. We'll get down there and see if everything else is there. Here's your Steam. Here's your Lutris. Here's your Proton. And under graphics, we have LibreOffice Draw. We have Inkscape and Photos. Under Internet, we have Firefox, Steam, and our Web Apps application. And under our Office, okay, it said I had only Office, but I'm actually only seeing LibreOffice here. So do we have only Office? So they're lying on their page. Maybe they had shipped only Office before and switched back to LibreOffice for whatever reason. I prefer LibreOffice personally. But that's personally me. Here's your system tools. So we have time shift, update system, and there's some utilities and some other. All right. So we get out of this, we get a system that is basically Fedora with a few extra steps, extra package manager stuff installed. And we do have our own Nobara package manager as well. So in addition to the GNOME software store, we do have something for Nobara packages. You can see it's actually downloading a bunch more repos again. So we'll let it do its thing, then we'll come back to that. All right, now that it's done here, we have these. I'm guessing these are the packages that are installed, is my guess. Or this is, okay. Now, I think this is packages that we can install if we want to. All right. Here's Flatpaks. Nothing there. Let's see. We can install a new Flatpak. So if I want to use a Flatpak, this is actually a nice option here. So, again, Audacity, you can search something up, and then you can kind of click in over here. And what you're going to do is hit the confirm option, and then this is going to go ahead and install your FlatHub. So it's installing all of this. So if I want to go ahead and proceed with this, we hit the confirm button. I'm going to cancel this just because we've already downloaded a lot. I don't need to download a bunch more for this one. Oh, it does tell me that Audacity is now installed, even though I canceled it. So that's neat. So over here, let's see if I can search. Let's search for, so here's GDK themes. So I knew that was going to be in the repository. So if you're going to search for something, it's very much like Synaptic Package Manager. Here's your queue, and that is kind of what we get. Let's go ahead and run. So you can see Audacity did not actually get installed, even though it did tell us that it installed. That was neat. And let's see. There's clocks. sounds. All right. So there really is what we get. Here's your GNOME settings. Let's check our versions real quick. Down here under our About, we have, here's our hardware model. We have our memory. We have our processor, graphics, and Nobara Linux 38. We have GNOME version is 44. We're using Wayland, Oracle, kernel version 6.3.9. And so that really is what we get. Overall, it looks like just a nice little distribution to run Fedora with some extras. Really good if you love that Windows experience and want to see pop-ups interrupting your workflow. Great distribution for that. That silliness aside, if you're running games or DaVinci Resolve or something like this distribution might very well be your go-to, as it's going to have the strength and the support of Fedora behind it. And it's going to have a lot of the extra functions and features. The tools are pretty nice. It does make the system a little bit easier to manage than somebody without any extra experience. So it's going to work out well. We have nice theme switchers to have a variety of different layouts that you want. That's always nice. And it does nice to see a new package managing tool. Although there seems to be a few bugs in it. You know, I explicitly canceled the Flatpak and it told me it was successfully installed. That shouldn't happen if I hit the cancel button in reality, and it wasn't installed. But to have a nice tool in there that allows you to search up packages and install them is nice. And having Flatpak already installed and configured is nice for a person who wants it, which based on Fedora, most people that use Fedora do like and support the Flatpak model. So that is pretty good. Overall, the distribution is pretty nice. I had a few issues with that themer, and I do not like the fact that it kept on giving me pop-ups about things that I might want to do. You know, I have the welcome screen that pops up at first. That's to be expected on a first boot, but I'm in the middle of something. Don't give me more pop-ups to ask me to install something else. That is very Windows-esque behavior, and that I don't like that. And I think a lot of people switching to Linux for the privacy angle also do not like that. So we have to be cautious on that. Overall, though, it is a nice distribution. It did install well. It did play well. For the most part, this is pretty good. So if you are looking for something for the gaming or for the heavy video production, it might be one you look at. If you're a beginner to Linux, it may be one that you want to give a pass to because it has a few of those functions that cause a system crash in the one case, or Wine being pre-installed. If you're not needing Steam or needing any of that, it's probably better to go without those. So that is overall my take on Nobara Linux. Let me know if you've used this, what your thoughts are. Let me know all that kind of stuff in the comments down below. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.